Well, that's not good. Do people know what's going on? No, and that's the problem. So we'll go to the first one that's right here. Um, Tampa Bay Times will probably ask me to pay. Yeah, I'm not paying you guys. You can go jump off of a tall bridge. Let's see. Fewer sawfish are dying, and people and officials are trying to find out why. So, yeah, I need to fix this so I can actually read what's going on here before you leave. No, I'm not checking anything out. And I got to find a website that's not going to give me a bunch of ads. Good luck with that, right? All right, let's see. Whatever's making sawfish spin and die. Okay, so no one knows exactly why it's happening. And that's kind of the problem because there's usually a few things that cause fish to die here in Florida. You have red tide. Red tide is caused by the K. brevis algae. And what the algae does, it has a toxin, a neurotoxin called brevetoxin. Is that playing? Okay. It has a toxin called brevetoxin. And it's a neurotoxin. And what neurotoxins do is attack your nervous system. And when your nervous system gets attacked, there's a few things that could happen. But with these, it's basically it'll usually block any of the pathways um, from your brain telling your body what to do. And a lot of these things, like breathing, like you can think about breathing and you go, okay, I'm going to breathe now. But if you're not thinking about it, your body just automatically does a lot of this stuff. And when you have a neurotoxin that is introduced, it will cut off the. No, I don't want a card. It will cut off the communication. Is the ad blocker on? Privacy protection. I don't know why it keeps on doing that. But it'll cut off the communications between your brain and whatever body parts there are. So your brain just can't tell the thing what to do. You don't breathe without your brain telling you to. It might be subconscious, but it still does it. And when you cut it off, it basically relaxes all the muscles that control that will just stop. And so the same thing happens with fish. If the neural pathways are blocked, it will cause them to move erratically, maybe. It'll stop them from actually being able to breathe. Like everything just stops working. And so, usually, what happens when you have an animal, like especially fish, that spin around, just it's usually a neurological issue. Something is misfiring the brain or blocking the communication between the brain and whatever else to make things work properly. Guys should like this video, all right? Yeah. Well, I hope so. But so that's the basics of it. So when we look at these fish, and it's not just sawfish, there's a lot of fish that are doing it, and they're just spinning around in the water. That tells us that it is a neurotoxin of some kind. And what neurotoxins usually indicate are that there's something in the water, obviously, that is putting more of it in the water than there should be. Because a lot of these things are always in the water. It just depends on what amount. And so red tide, brevetoxin, will do that, and it'll lead to fish kills. Also, the other big one is ciguatera. And ciguatera is caused by, it's another type of algae. And ciguatera, I believe, is caused, or the algae itself lives around coral. And especially when coral's distressed, like the chemicals that they give off, like that's what the ciguatera will really thrive on. So like that's one of the reasons why if you go down to areas that have a lot of corals, like the Bahamas or any of the Caribbean islands or anything, yes, the dinoflagellates, yes. Um, I don't know all the keywords and stuff for it, but that's the basics of it. When you have those things, um, and it gets passed down the food web. So like you get your herbivorous fish that'll eat like the algae and stuff in the area. They'll build up a lot of this toxin, and then fish, especially like barracudas, will eat the fish that are on these coral reefs, and they'll build up a high amount of it, especially in like just underneath their skin, in like the first few layers. And so if you eat a barracuda that has ciguatera poison, it can lead to food poisoning. So that's the basics of it. But from my understanding, one of the tests, I'll have to look, actually, you know what? Let's just look at that. You want to come up here, Saget Master? Because you seem to know some of this stuff. Let's see. If you're wanting to, you don't have to. Let's see, I'm giving you a call. If you come up, you do. If you don't, whatever. All right. So, Terra, wait. Oh, of course it's not doing it. Ciguatera poison. Oh my God, if I can spell poisoning sawfish. Diary of one. Scientists warn continue. Let's see. No, okay, scientists continue to search for what's poisoning Lower Keys fish. Another dead sawfish is confirmed. To your other question that you had, no, I had not realized that. Gotcha. The increase comes amid a mysterious outbreak of unusual behavior spotted between Bahia Honda and Sugarloaf Key starting in November. When struggling fish appeared spinning, fighting to stay upright, or poking their head out of the water, 2 months later, the sick and dead sawfish started washing up at the flats and the beach. Okay. Okay, so I know last year there was this case or where the water around like the upper keys, the surface level hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is crazy hot, and it was killing a bunch of corals. Have you ever thought about doing a video with Forrest Calante? I've thought about it. Of course, I would love to do a video with them. I did have a video where I didn't exactly. He might not like the things that I said. It had to do with what was it? The thylacine evidence that he came out with not too long ago. I wasn't really a big fan of the way that he was making it out to be, and I said that, but like I don't hate Forrest. I think he's great. Just think that, sometimes you got to call people out when they're doing stuff in your field that you are interested in. And if he saw that video, probably wouldn't like me too much, but I don't dislike him, and I would love to do a video with him. But he's big time Hollywood, basically, so I don't think that will at least happen in any time in the near future, but of course I'd love to. There's something toxic. We don't know what, though. It could be anything.
Okay, where
Oh,
what's the exact location? I've got a satellite map of Florida up, and I'm gonna see like, if there's a potential source for this or what.
well, it's basically all of South Florida. I believe it's from Miami down through, it says right here, I just read one of the, it was like, so Bahia Honda and Sugarloaf Key, but there were some that were farther north into like, it was basically the Keys, but there was some in the Everglades area and there were some in the Miami area. So basically all from Miami south.
Yeah, so kind of the first thing that's coming to mind, obviously like some kind of runoff. But the rub here that, I might be able to contribute as a geologist is the fact that the life of water in the Everglades, especially if this is related to some kind of city groundwater or whatever. No, that's not going to happen immediately. It's like it could very well be the case chemical that It's something that they used to use 50 years ago, and they haven't used it in 20 years. But it actually had to take that long to actually permeate through the limestone groundwater, and now it's just reaching the coast.
It wouldn't totally surprise me if that was the case, because that is uh, back a few years ago, not too far away from me. There's a phosphate mine called Piney Point. And what happened at Piney Point, and I've talked about this before, was that they put all of the water from the phosphate mining in these big lakes the man-made lakes, and they're like a fluorescent blue color. They're on a natural blue color, and it started to leak, and they couldn't contain it, and they ended up dumping the water directly into Tampa Bay. And directly after that, no, I don't. So many ads directly after that, there was a red tide bloom. But people, and including the governor, which I like DeSantis, but this was just like one of his worst moments, was like, well, the people I've talked to said that red tide is a natural thing, so it's not really a big deal. And has nothing to do with what's happening here. And it's like, but like the algae literally feeds off of it. But also that Mosaic, the company, has been known to dump or to shoot phosphate water down into the limestone and into the aquifers. Like, this is something they've done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so the whole of South Florida entirely really porous limestone. So for the benefit of that, limestone is soluble in regular water. So like limestone, it's calcium carbonate. It's made of like coral or seashell chunks, something like that. Calcite is the mineral name. And if you drop dilute acid on that, it'll fizz, right? Because it breaks down in acid. It releases CO2, and it breaks down and goes into solution inside of the acid. So even just the acidity of rainwater and many groundwaters will dissolve holes in this limestone, and they can be very big, and that'll form, cave systems and what are called karst topographies, where it has all these sinkholes and all of these really uneven topography caused by this dissolution, or it can form, deep caves, or it can just be really small pores throughout the entire limestone. So either way, limestone is relatively porous to groundwater. Now, it's not porous like a sand, but compared to most rocks, water will be able to percolate through it. And over, decades, this water travels significant distances.
yeah. Yeah, because it all goes south. That's why, I mean, that's what the Everglades literally does. It's like acts like a giant filter for all of this stuff. And that's part of the problem, is that a lot of this water now that would go through the Everglades gets trapped in Lake Okeechobee, and when it fills up too much, they have to, you know, release it, the floodgates basically, and it goes um, directly into the Gulf or the Atlantic Ocean. Hey, Holly, thanks for stopping by. This right here, this was in Mulberry, which is not too far outside of Tampa. Mosaic says 215 million gallons of slightly radioactive water has leaked into the Florida aquifer since August 27th after a sinkhole opened under a retention pond in Mulberry. And this was back in 2016. It happens at it's happening at Mosaic's new Wales plant in Polk County. A representative of Mosaic told Fox 13 News that the plant stores wastewater in ponds on top of a huge gypsum stack. The representative said they noticed the water level in one of the ponds dropping on August 27th. About a week later, they confirmed a sinkhole had opened beneath the gypsum stack. By that time, 215 million gallons of slightly radioactive water had drained into the Florida aquifer. Stuff like this happens all the time.
Yeah, no, all over the country. And there's take your pick of whatever thing they're mining. It's not always phosphate. Sometimes it's copper or sulfur or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you
We
sorry?
in my geochemistry class, we took a field trip to the coal fields in Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
and we saw some of the acid mine drainage. So when they stopped pumping the water out of these coal mines, when they stopped using them, it fills up, and all of the sulfur in the coal turns into sulfuric acid, and all of the organics in the coal make the water super reducing and super low in oxygen.
Hmm.
So, in the right spot, literally just on the side of the road, we pulled over and there was just water bubbling up. And they were like, all right, stick a probe in here. And it was like the pH of, it was like almost the pH of like stomach acid, like stronger than vinegar.
Oh
And there
God.
was like, 10 to the -8 oxygen in there or whatever. So like crazy shit.
Well,
And
that's
that's just,
that's kind of what red tide also does, is that it doesn't just affect the fish through the neurotoxin that it produces. It also hurts them by when the actual algae itself dies off, um, a ton of carbon um, or carbon dioxide gets pumped in the water, or gets pumped to the water as well, or ugh, there becomes a lack of oxygen with the decomposition process as well. And so it'll literally like completely suck out all of the oxygen in the water. And a lot of fish will die off that way too.
yeah, like you said, it doesn't even need to be any kind of algae producing toxic compounds. And I don't know, DeSantis saying that, like literally no one with a degree would ever say that about red tide. Like it's impossible to say that. It's like you dumped fertilizer into the ocean. Of course, that's the reason.
Yeah, I
um,
agree. I agree, and that's what a lot of people were really ticked off
yeah.
about. That's one of the reasons, like Captains for Clean Water was already a thing, but that it really got a boost, and a lot of people were really upset about that situation. Well, I mean, rightfully so, but it was just like, like literally right before it happened, he declared a state of emergency for Florida because of this thing. He flew out to it, and like he just goes in front of a bunch of people and like, yeah, this that everyone says, all the scientists I've talked to says it's safe, it's not going to cause a bunch of problems, and then immediately after that there was a red tide bloom, and they said that it had nothing to do with it. Yeah, it is what it is, but like that's just something that I guess, and that's the problem, is when I do make videos talking about this kind of stuff, um, the immediate attack is, well, it's because all the people running Florida, they're all, money hungry, blah blah. And I'm like, it's not just Republicans. It's literally every single person that's in any sort of power. They all do this. It doesn't matter what side. You can go to any state. You can go. Massachusetts has this happening. You're telling me Massachusetts is a red state? No. And like the same stuff is happening all over the country, all over the world. And it's just like when you get to a certain point, I mean, Florida is under a massive building process right now. Everywhere is being built up. And what happens if you slow that down? Well, the only way to slow it down is to stop the development and to stop all these people from making money. That's not going to happen.
No, there needs to be a different solution. There's the idea in business called the infinite growth paradigm. It's just, me even saying it out loud, it seems obvious. The idea that a company needs to grow every quarter.
Yeah.
Just like, think about that for a second. Like, imagine if that applied to bacteria. Well, there would be one strain of bacteria that would have consumed all the organic material on all of Earth, and then everything would have died, and all life would be gone. Like, that's just not how things work. And the idea that you can keep doing that for any amount of time is beyond stupid. And all of these people counting beans are objectively beyond stupid. And some of them, it's not their fault.
Yeah.
They've been chasing the wrong thing because they grew up in the wrong idea, and they're a product of their environment, and they have no idea. They can't even see the other side. But like, that's what happens when you incentivize certain things in a society for 150 years. Like, that's just the end result.
Yeah. Yeah. And, this has been going on now for, I mean, basically since the beginning of the year. And this article that I'm looking at now came out on May 1st. So, a few days ago. and clearly points out, but the cause of the erratic behavior believed to be related to an increase in sawfish deaths remains unclear. Right now, everything is pointing to what is likely a naturally occurring species or multiple species of algae that produce low levels of toxin. These are neurotoxins that would be consistent with the behavioral changes that we've seen in the fish. As I said, we're not sure why the sawfish are disproportionately affected. In fact, these large sawfish that we have coming in normally would be offshore at this time of year. So there's still a lot of things to figure out. So, oh, and the first reports were from fall of 2023, and the first deaths of sawfish began in January. So that's weird. That's weird in of itself that their behavior seems to be changing too. Like they would normally be offshore when all this stuff is happening, but they're not. Maybe that could it might have a ton of other things to do with it. Like I, I don't know. It's just weird, and it's pretty. It seems pretty obvious to me that there is something, as this states, something to do with some sort of algae bloom. Um, but at the same time, it's just like, why would only the sawfish be attacked by it? It doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, it's a totally open question. And unfortunately, like, we can just hope it's not too bad. Like this could be, for all we know, this could literally be a sawfish pathogen, and every sawfish is about to die.
Well, it's
Or
not
like there's
just
going to be,
sawfish though.
anything closely related. I obviously wasn't paying attention when you were
No,
going over the
no.
article. Like
So some of the other fish that I saw, there was Goliath grouper, pinfish, stuff that is not related to sharks and rays at all.
Well, yeah, and pinfish aren't even that high on the trophic pyramid,
No, they're
so that's
not.
kind of
They're
concerning.
pretty. They're like, I believe they would be like level
They eat
one.
small fish, I think.
Yeah, level one
Yeah,
consumers or something like that. Whatever the level one is, but
right.
yeah. So like they eat. I mean, they'll eat some grass and stuff. They mostly eat like, other fish and shrimp and stuff like that. So they're not
Dude,
tertiary, but
I mean, if you'll indulge me, let's just talk about, dude, the pinfish and the trumpet fish and cornet fish. Those things are so cool. Talk about extreme adaptation and shit, dude. Just doing exactly what they're supposed to.
are the trumpet fish related to pinfish? I thought.
No, no, fucking. It's just it's like convergent evolution, dude.
Do you,
Oh,
are
I'm
we
no,
talking
I'm
about
not.
this? Are we talking about
I'm
this?
thinking of needlefish.
Oh,
I'm thinking of
needlefish.
needlefish.
Yeah, no. So pinfish are
Yeah, I just googled them.
I would say they're more like grunts and porgies and stuff like that. But
It's lame.
needlefish are cool. We get needlefish in fresh water too. They'll swim up into any
Oh,
fresh water connected to like the springs and stuff. You'll have videos of people swimming with like manatees and stuff in the springs. There's needlefish all over the place in those areas too.
that is badass. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can. That was a completely irrelevant
No,
distraction.
they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. No, you're right about that. They
Yeah,
stink. They stink a lot. They definitely stink. Not much.
are they good bait?
Not
Probably good.
really. There stuff does eat them. I can't say no. They're not really good cut bait. The best I've seen is that like in certain situations, little ones, um, there's a pier in Clearwater called Pier 60. It's a famous pier out there. And I mean, you can still fish off of it now, but it used to be a lot, like you could do a lot more out there. Now there's like a bunch of rules and stuff. And you could like you would catch these little baby needlefish and you'd put them right on the surface, right under the light, and like you'd watch trout and snook would come up and eat them. But that's the only place I've ever seen stuff actually eat them. Most of the time, there's not too much that I've seen eat them.
Yeah, so the idea that it's multiple species being affected by this toxin, I mean, honestly, like It might be like a best case scenario if it's just an algae bloom. Like I was saying earlier, if it's some weird chemical just now leaking out of the bay, it could be fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing, and the fact that it's happening down south there too, it kind of to me points in the direction of maybe ciguatera because I mean there's more coral that there's I mean that's where all the coral reefs are going to be here in Florida is going to be down there, um, and that would make a little bit more sense to me, but I don't know because it's not. It's again, it's from my understanding, it's only happening in Florida. In the
Yeah,
Caribbean.
I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know. But
Yeah, it's
it
only in the
does suck.
Keys. It's only in the
All
Keys.
right, I'm gonna jump off here, dude. This was a good call.
Yeah, man. Thanks for stopping by.
For sure. Red top.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disconnect you that quick. I thought you were done. My bad. Yeah, but the more and more I look into it, the more it's I mean, I understand that there's a bunch of tests that are going to be done. I'm going to be interested. I'm also going to possibly hedge my bet in saying that we might not hear the exact reason why this is happening because it might directly affect a lot of these companies and they don't want that information. If they're the cause of this happening, they're not gonna like if you're doing these tests on these fish, you should be able to see what's killing them. And in one of the I gotta find it because the samples were well, from my understanding, at least 30 of the sawfish incorporation stinking out. Yeah, maybe. And that's the thing is, from my understanding, okay, the samples were shipped within the past 2 weeks to the University of South Alabama in Mobile for testing. The university specializes in research of ciguatera, which can cause central nervous disorder in humans. Ciguatera is a foodborne illness caused by eating tropical reef fish that accumulate the naturally occurring toxin or poison called ciguatoxin. Small sea plants called dinoflagellates, which grow on and around coral reefs, naturally produce ciguatoxins. Some water samples taken in the lower Keys tested positive for Gambia discus. Matthew said Gambia discus toxins is a single-celled algae or a dinoflagellate that can cause ciguatera. Researchers also found Gambia discus in the gut of a mullet, which are which are algae eaters. Matthew said there are 20 species of Gambia discus, and not all are toxic. See, or if it gets concentrated in a specific organ and they didn't test it, true. Are fish affected by magnetic energy that hits Earth? You can see that ISWA has been increasing since late 2010s. Maybe, but I'm not too sure on that. And why would it affect only this one, or majority, just this one species of fish? I'm not too sure on that. Such toxins like ciguatera wind up in the food chain and build up in high level predators, but generally don't kill them, Matthews said. The Florida Department of Health in Tallahassee, which issues seafood advisories, has been made aware of the dead sawfish and fish behaving strangely, Matthews said. There have been no reported cases of ciguatera in humans in Monroe County, and the health department has not issued any fish consumption advisories, Matthews said Tuesday, February 20th. Such odd behavior has occurred in fish in the Florida Keys, but not on this scale or in such a large area, Matthews said. Such behavior exhibited in 2017 in a small population of mullet in a small area off of Marathon. The fish behavior is concerning and unusual, said Florida Gulf Coast University professor and research scientist Michael Parsons, who specializes in ciguatera fish poisoning, harmful algae blooms, coral reef ecology, and phytoplankton ecology. We are trying to figure out what's going on. We are trying to keep an open mind. We don't think it's red tide or low oxygen. We are being very cautious, and we don't want to put any misinformation out there. I can understand that. I can understand that and wanting to make sure that they're not, freaking people out, because here's the thing is as soon as you say there's red tide, no matter where in the state it is, people stop coming because they think it's everywhere. Also, real quick, if you guys aren't a part of the Discord, I got it in the upper uh, right hand corner of the screen. Go check that out. We try to have a good time in there. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do like this video and share it if you want. Whatever, just do what you want to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do, even though I just did. Parson is part of a team of scientists who are investigating the sawfish deaths and the whirling and spinning of the other species of fish. Supposed to go back to Tampa a few years back. Went to Miami and said because it's the red tide. Yeah. Yep, it's a thing. And yes, thank you guys very much for stopping by. Matthews briefed the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary Advisory Council on Tuesday, February 20th, on the sawfish mortality event and strange behavior being exhibited by the fish. Video and photographs have been circulating, blah, blah, blah. Video occurring after a summer heat wave that led to an algae bloom and fish kills, massive coral bleaching, and death and sponge mortality. There was massive coral bleaching, unfortunately. The area in which these fish are currently being impacted was also in the area of the lower Keys, where residents of Cujo and Summerland Keys reported nearshore water turned from a clear blue at the start of the summer to a green by midsummer into a brown by late and early fall. That does sound like an algae bloom. Mussels measure the ultraviolet light. Gotcha. I mean, maybe. I'm not sure. Let's see. Are sawfish affected by ISWA? Let's see. Not seeing anything on that. Are fish affected by ISWA? Is that what she said, right? ISWA? Let's see. I don't like that. No, I'm not. I'm not clicking on that. Rent marine plastic litter. Forms of global waste crisis. International Solid Waste Association is calling. Oh, you can see the ISWA. Is that what you meant? This right here, Shrimpy? The International. I mean, they. Oh, so are you talking about the marine plastics? I'm sure they're affected by that. I'm sure they are. I'm not too sure, but here's let's see, red tide, Florida. There's usually a current map of it too. What's your opinion on the Force Galante thylacine filings, particularly regarding his withholding of the possible photo evidence of the jawbone? Can't stress enough how egregious it is, in my opinion. I did a full video on it not too long ago, so if you want to see my whole take on that, you can. I agree with you. I was really irritated by it, and it was kind of dumb. Kind of seemed like he was trying to edge us, get us edging. As disgusting as that sounds. But yeah, I wasn't too happy with it. Let's see, what are the maps? Okay, not present. Okay, so there's really no red tide right now at present, which is good. And it's the water's already warming up pretty quick. So I would This is a good thing. So if that's not the case and there's no red tide present, it's probably not that, but I can definitely see if they do ciguatera present. Keys. Let's see if that has anything. Science superbug from algae making Floridian sick. That was in 2019. I mean, there's nothing recent on this, so it's kind of... So basically, no one knows exactly what's going on. The testing shows that some of these fish had higher levels of the ciguatera poisoning, but that's about it. And it's very unfortunate. No, not plastic. Measured by two magnetometers in space by two very expensive satellites. I don't know. Let's see. SWA. Integrated space weather analysis. Uh-oh, we're gonna get the anti-NASA people in here pretty soon. You know, to tell us that space isn't real. Or something like that. Let's see. Solar flare scoreboard. Oh wait, let's see. Super timeline. This graph is empty. What are you good for? As much as I want to believe it is real evidence, I cannot help but be suspicious regarding his choice to withhold the only evidence that could be. Exactly. He says it would be a problem, but I just don't see... I don't know how to read this. I just don't see how it withholding that would actually change whether or not people would go there. Because I don't know if it's like if he shows it, people will be like, oh, he's not kidding or something. But like just to say that you're going to go there to do it and you want to raise money for it is going to push anybody who would theoretically do that to do it regardless, because they already know that you're going to do it. I don't know. It's weird. You know, a problem for his own public image when they say it's not a thylacine. Yeah, it could possibly be that. He definitely seemed a little bit ballsy with it. But let's see if there's anything newer that has come out. Ooh, Meat Canyon has a new video. I gotta go check that out in a little bit. Let's see. 1 month ago, nothing very recent. Nothing recent. 3 weeks ago. Okay, here's 3 days ago.
Right now, Florida Fish and Wildlife say they're seeing a decrease in the number of erratically spinning fish and small-tooth sawfish
Yeah,
deaths.
this morning, researchers still don't have a definitive answer as to what's causing these fish to actually just spin around in circles, leading some of them to die. The behavior started in the fall with the first deaths reported at the start of the year. One possible cause is the increase of algae that produces low levels of toxins. Right now, red tide and oxygen issues have been ruled out.
Okay. That's all it is. It just says that there was a decrease. 13 days ago. Let's see.
A really bizarre story for you this morning. After dozens of sawfish are found dead along the coast of Florida, researchers are now racing to solve this mystery. of what in the world is causing this critically endangered species to act so erratically and die. Some of these videos really hard to watch. Xavier Walton joins us live from Miami with more. Xavier, sites like these are hard to stomach, and the problem has a lot of people worried.
Marky, residents and researchers extremely worried, mainly because they can't seem to figure out why. So not only do you have a fact-finding mission, also you have a recovery.
From 400 feet, everything looks calm. But under the surface, researchers rushing to solve a months-long mystery in the Florida Keys. To date, officials say more than 40 small-toothed sawfish, a critically endangered species, have died, and no one knows why.
Crazy, man.
You could see the distress in its eyes, and it was just so heartbreaking. I just started crying.
Florida's Wildlife Commission has gotten nearly 200 reports of sawfish displaying bizarre behavior since January. Greg Furstenworth lives on the Keys and has been documenting this disturbing trend.
And when you see how big the animal is and how distressed the animal is, and it just doesn't stop, it really kind of, sends it home that there's a very serious problem with these sawfish.
It's heartbreaking.
It is.
Specialized teams executing a rescue mission, removing an 11-foot sawfish from the Keys. It was reportedly distressed and swimming in circles. Trained scientists using a
This one actually just was put down.
forklift, placing the endangered species carefully into a holding tank before transporting it some 7 hours away to Sarasota, Florida.
We are recirculating through filtration systems, advanced technologies, to try to make sure that the animal was out of whatever might be causing this odd behavior.
For now, that sawfish is in an extensive quarantine facility swimming in a stabilization tank, but researchers hope to get it back into the ocean. Officials say they're religiously running tests and taking samples to solve the deadly mystery.
I think that people are very concerned that they won't solve the mystery, and the number one thing I've heard is people are just hoping that it'll go away.
In our report, primarily focusing on sawfish, but they weren't the only ones behaving in a bizarre manner. And Marky, perhaps one of the more strange things, we were out on the water, out in the Keys with Greg. We didn't see a single fish, which he said, it almost gave him end of the world sci-fi movie type vibes. So when you think about the mystery and that, just very strange things happening down in the Keys.
Yeah, almost apocalyptic in a weird way.
Yeah, but what are you going to do about it? You're not going to do anything about it. I mean, I understand this is something that really needs to be hammered home for sure, because it's if it does just disappear, no one will talk about it again until the next thing comes up, and the next time around it'll be red tide or whatever. They're just going to talk. I mean, they are going to talk about it. At least they're talking about it. You're right about that. They're talking about it. But if it goes away, no one will talk about it. It's just going to disappear. And that's just how all this stuff ends up going, unfortunately. Unfortunately. But, I mean, there's been weeks, basically, there's been a lack of coverage until... none of this stuff is, most of the stuff is, 3 weeks older, at least most of it is around a month old. So it's not really talked about much at all now that, even typing in sawfish deaths. 4 days ago, there's been 45 dead now. Necropsies on 32 of them. And that's it. It's just saying the same thing over and over again. We're not sure what's happening. Why are the sawfish affected? And that's probably all there will ever be on it.